Welcome to our channel, Million Dollars Made Easy. On this channel, we love to run numbers for people, and what I've set up is multiple spreadsheets that can help you see where you might be in the future. On this channel, we use the actual historical returns for the S&P 500 for the last 100 years, which does include the depression years, which kind of gives us kind of a worst case scenario going forward if we'd have returns like that. We project ahead what similar returns might do for you in the future. They obviously won't be identical to any given year, and the resulting numbers are simply a possible range of what may happen in the future. They won't be exact, they will be ballpark figures. I got a request here for somebody that's 39. Now, when I get requests from somebody that's 39 and want to know when they can retire, I'm a little bit hesitant to do this, but here's the numbers he gave me. So he's got 1,700,000 saved up, but he's also got some in a 401k and some in a IRA. It's no, a Roth IRA. So I'm going to add these numbers up, and they would be 1,771,000. He says he can put $648 a month in, and he says he can increase that by 2% a year. So this would be 648 the first year, increasing by 2% down through here. And of course, these numbers are accumulating too, based on what's going on in the market during these years. What I do is we run the worst case scenario in the last 100 years. And here's why I'm showing all the calculations this spreadsheet has to do. It starts with certain years and it carries them all the way through, giving you these kind of returns. And so what we do is end up with a worst case scenario in the last 100 years, what these numbers would have accumulated to. And what's highlighted in yellow here is showing you in these situations, the worst, the second worst in the last 100 years, the fifth worst, the 10th worst, and the 20th worst, how many times you'd actually end up with less money than what you put in. If you have 10 years or less, you could actually end up with less money. Like for example, right here, after 10 years, you would have put in 1.856 million, but you'd only have 1.611 million to show for it. So we always like to look at the worst case scenario. If you can survive this, if your money can survive the absolute worst that's happened in the last 100 years, you're going to be in good shape. Now, I'm going to go ahead and run this at age 55. So I really hesitate to run it much earlier than that, but he's really in good shape already because he said his expected expenses are just 6,000 a month. If he's already got 1.771 million, he only needs 72,000 a year. That's a withdrawal rate of a really minimal amount. So we want to, I'm going to go ahead and look as if he's going to work till age 55, which would be 16 years from now before he starts taking out. And by that time, the 6,000 growing with a 3% inflation rate, he's going to need 9,628 to have the same buying as $6,000, the same buying power, $6,000. I'm not even going to bring in Social Security. Didn't give me those numbers. That would help his numbers immensely as he reaches age 62. But if he goes out at age 55, he'd have a certain amount, and we could run those numbers. And then when Social Security did kick in, we could run those numbers. But what I want to look at here is the worst case scenario, folks. And the worst case scenario, if he went out at age 55 with these kind of needed expenses right here after 16 years, he would never run out of money. He's going to see it going down through here. By the time the 16th year comes, he's going to have 2.601 million saved up. That's in the worst case scenario all the way through. Only the other ones only get better. In fact, the median in this column, he'd have 8.6 million. The absolute highest have 26 million. But when he starts taking it out at age 55, which would be the 17th year, that's when the numbers start going down, and that's where we're going to look to see how these numbers work in this column. And you go down through here, you're going to see you never run out of money. It just gets more and more and more. We're looking at this column right here, folks. It, it never runs out of money. That's in the worst case scenario. Now, if we had a higher expenses, let's say, for example, he expected to have 10,000 a month, then we start having some issues. Actually, we still don't have any issues at 10,000 a month. Let's go ahead and do going out at age 50. I just want to show you that it does run in this case. If you went out at age 50 and you needed 10,000 a month, which would be 13,000 expenses in 11 years from now, which is age 50, then in the worst case scenario, you'd run out of money in 19 years. But he's so far from that. I'm running it at age 55 because I really don't like to see people do early retirement because there's so many things you take into account, because your Social Security is based on the high 35 years. Uh, and if you're going out at age 50, going out at say like age 45, have you really had 35 years of work that your Social Security could be based on? But anyway, I'm just running at 55 here. And it looks like now, even in the worst case scenario, he would be just fine right now. If we cut what he saved down to nothing, this is the key right here. He's got so much. For example, I just want to show you if he just had 500,000 saved up at age 39, just to show you what we can do on this channel. Then you got a situation here where you're running out of money in 25 years. If you went out at age 55, say he was only saving 300 a month. Then you got running out of money at age 4 after 14 years. And again, these are the worst case scenarios. That's why he's in such good shape, because he's got so much saved up already, and his expenses are quite low based on what he's got for a nest egg. So he's going to be just fine. Again, I hesitate to tell him that because he's got so many years between now and the time he could potentially retire. I just ran it at 55. Of course, he wouldn't be able to take Social Security till age 62, but then we'd be running his Social Security numbers, which we'd be making is what he'd need from his nest egg less, because he'd be getting some from Social Security. But since he didn't give me those numbers, since he's already got enough saved up now, his numbers look really, really good at age 39. I'm just running it. If he would save the 648 and would wait till age 55 to retire, looks like even in the worst case scenario, he's not going to have any problems. It's just going to be growing when he finally does start taking money out of this 2.601. That's in the worst case scenario. Would have put in 1.915, the worst case scenario. Again, you got above the yellow, so if you can be in it for at least 15 years, it looks like you always end up with more than what you put in. In this case, he'd have 2.601 when he started taking out this 9,628. So his money would last even in the worst case scenario. I always like to do the first worst, second worst, fifth worst, 10th and 20th worst. The reason I do that is if it's 100 years, the 20th worst, that means 80% of the time you'd have these kind of numbers. 90% of the time you'd have these kind of numbers, and 95% of the time you'd have these kind of numbers. If your money lasts over these periods, it's going to last the rest of the time. In fact, you're going to have all kinds of money left over after these time periods. But I always look at the worst case scenario, because that goes through the depression years. But that's what we do in this channel. We run numbers for people. We love doing it. If you want me to run numbers for you, just give them to me in the comment section and we'll go ahead and run them. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Let people know about this channel. Let them know there's a channel out there that will run numbers for them. Give them some idea what the future might look like. Please comment, like these videos, and thanks so much for watching.